Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another live webinar here at WP Studio. I am Benjamin Bradley and have been teaching WordPress business development, freelance coding, pretty much anything you can think of. I'll teach it, and if I don't know it yet, I'll learn it so that I can teach it. So we here at WP Studio are a community of like-minded developers who are all seeking to learn together. But enough about WP Studio. I know you guys are all here to learn and dig behind the scenes or find those little pro tips of using the plugin Pods. So before we dive into Pods, just a few logistics out there. We do have a chat room that is publicly available over at wpstudio.com/chat. wpstudio/chat. Because we are going to be doing almost no code at all today, just working inside the WordPress admin. There's no handout for today's session. Now, don't forget, we do have 3 days of Pods training. This first day is free and open to everybody. So I think that's everything. I am following along in both chat rooms. And so whether it's you're using the Zoom chat or you're using the WP Studio /chat. So this is it. We are going to be using the latest version of Pods. Now, I will point out that there is some really cool stuff coming in Pods 2.7. The current version is Pods 2.6.8. And so even though there's some really cool stuff coming in Pods 2.7, we're not going to cover that today. We're probably going to talk a little bit about that, what's coming on Thursday's session. Because I want you to be able to walk away from today's session with the full capability of reproducing what we do today on your own site. So, all you have to do is log into your WordPress admin, visit the plugins, and add by typing the word Pods, P-O-D-S, and it will come up as the first search result. Install it, and you are all set to go. By default, Pods is going to literally do nothing to your site except give you an admin area. So what we're going to do first is we're going to make a quick custom post type, then we're going to talk about it, then we're going to step back, look at a few of the additional settings and options that we can enable to enhance Pods, and then we're going to dive even a little bit deeper by starting to intermix different custom post types, custom taxonomies, all that type of stuff. Now, if you are a type of person and you're on this webinar and you don't consider yourself a developer, I will also explain each of the aspects in non-developer speak. What this means is, how many of you have never heard or you don't quite know what a custom post type is? If you don't have to raise your hand, well, you can raise your hand, nobody else is going to see it. But if that is you, and maybe you make some websites or you design some websites for some friends, the easiest way to explain a custom post type is when you have that client who comes in and says, I don't want a WordPress website because, I don't want to make blog posts because that's a younger generation thing. I want to do something official like a press release. Well, you and I know that a press release could be contained within a post, but not all of our clients are going to be skilled in the terminology of what WordPress is and how WordPress stores its content. So think about a custom post type as a different naming wrapper or a different type of folder in which to store content. And we can have different tabs or sticky notes in that folder of content that we store, or different types of things that we store, different values that we're going to store and collect together. That's what a custom post type is going to do. It's giving you extra types of content storage. And while you can do all of this with straight code, and while you can do all of these with a number of different plugins, what I want to do is show you how not only is Pods one of the easiest ways to extend WordPress using these custom post types and creating additional pods, but I want to be able to show you that it is the most flexible to expand in and pretty much do whatever you want. So let's get started and use that first illustration that I talked about. And that is, you have a client who doesn't want posts, they want press releases. So let's go ahead and click Add New in the Pods admin. And we are presented with the first screen. Now, before I go further, I just want to make sure, is the screen large enough for you, or do you want me to zoom in just a little bit? I'll let you decide how you want that to go. Looks good. All right. So here in our starting point for pods, we're going to start here with the create new. Later on today, we are going to be dealing with this extending. So in creating a new thing, remember, this is kind of like a folder. It's a way we're going to store data, pieces of information, posts that are outside of the posts or the pages concept. And we're going to say we want a custom post type, which means it's like a post or a page. So therefore, let's start with a press release. And press releases. Why? There is a singular and a plural label that will make sense as we go a little bit further. But this is actually all we have to do. We hit next step, it processes it, and look now, without doing anything else, all we did was fill in those 3 fields. We have press releases already built into our WordPress website. I can view all the press releases that are here. No press releases found. I can add a press release. And look, yes, I've got a title and a content. And I have a few other things. Actually, so I don't confuse anybody, I'm going to turn off one of these plugins that we were playing in another training event, just so we don't see extra things that we don't need to see. Okay, so I've got my title and my content area. Looks like a regular blog post, but it's now being stored in a press release. Anybody lost yet? This should be very basic. You can create infinite number of custom post types. And as you're going to see what we do here today, we're going to dig a little deeper as we go. So let's go back to our pods. Now that we have created a pods, we have an add new. So let's go into the edit pods. This allows us to get a list of all the pods or custom post types, custom taxonomies, custom settings tables, all these things that you can you have created with pods. You get a full list. So I can come back over here and edit. Now at this point, we are presented with 5 tabs. These tabs break down, the different sections that you may want to have access to. Most of the time, most of us are going to only be dealing with the first 4. When you start to get a little more in the developer side, you may look at enabling the REST API to gain access to interact with the pods. We're not going to get into that in today's session. So we have the manage the fields. We have our labels. And I'll explain what each one of these are in just a moment. We have an admin UI, so that's going to adjust how we view this on this side. And then we have some additional advanced options for creating and customizing the capabilities and what a custom post type can do. All right, so before we dive into the manage the fields, because this is really where pods can start to shine, we're going to go here to labels, because here you see our singular label and our The default label is the plural label. Why? Because we have our press releases. The default label is what is going to appear here. Now, you'll also notice that you have a number of additional labels. These are things that show here, like the add new. See that? It says add new. But if we wanted it to say press it now, and we save this pod, our customization now is no longer add new. Oh, you've lost the cursor. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. I can always highlight the cursor like this. That may help as we move stuff around. Thank you for letting me know. So here in my labels, every aspect of a custom post type can easily be updated, managed, and customized. You'll see all the defaults here on the left, and then you can put what you want. So as you begin playing around here and we come to all press releases, this can be adjusted. The text of this button can be adjusted. The no press releases text, that can be, these are all labels that are attached to the custom post type. Every type of post type in WordPress has these labels, and Pods has a very simple way of editing those. And you'll find all of them in the Labels tab. The admin UI is where we begin to customize how it appears, how it looks, how it feels in the admin area. While I'm not going to go through every single aspect, I am going to point out 2 or 3 elements that you probably will want to know about, even if it's just for your own sites or for client sites. First one is menu position, and then the next one is menu icon. By default, when you create a custom post type with Pods, you will get this little thumbnail or the thumbtack or pin, whatever it is, as your icon. You will also have them appear at the just below comments, and they'll kind of start to stack up right below that. That's where they will all, by default, show up. Now, the first one is, let's deal with the menu icon. Sure, you can put any type of, you can hover over this and you can see, hey, you can use URLs to other icons, but I want to show you something that I don't think many people take advantage of here in WordPress, and that is the dash icons that are by default included in WordPress. So I'm going to paste this into the chat room. And if you just joined us a little bit late, chat room is over at wpstudio.com/chat. The reason why this is important is many plugins, including Pods, will automatically select the dash icon by the name and use that as the custom post type menu icon. So I can search through here and I can look till I find something that would maybe look like a press release. I could, let's just say, all right, I like this one. So you click on that and I can see that this says the name is dash icon analytics. So I'm going to copy this. Let's go back over here to our menu icon. We're going to paste just the name of that dash icon. Let's save this. And immediately you're going to see, look, our press release just updated the icon. If you work with clients, that step alone is going to set you apart, because now you are adding something that doesn't look just like a default thing, like a gear or some basic non-used icon. And it's as simple as pasting the name of the icon. The next thing that you should know about, I'm going to pull up the link. It's over here. Okay. So if you are not always looking, or at least have the WordPress codex on instant recall, what you may not realize is there is so much good stuff here that will tell you things like menu position. So, and a lot of times what I would do, and just so you'll see, or at least how you can do this, you don't have to remember URLs. Google is your friend. If you see something that says menu position inside WordPress, all you'd have to do is Google WordPress menu position, and you will find everything you need. This was the first thing that came up. And so I can scroll and I can see that I have numbers for my menu position. Now, right now, off the top of your screen, you can see right after comments is press releases. But what if I want my press releases to be up here, above the posts, or right below the post? Well, I can see that my post is number 5. So how about let's number it 6. So it will be between posts and media. So I can come over here, say my menu position is 6, save the pod, my press release moves up here, and now I have positioned it properly. So those are two things that you will want to use in the admin UI. A number of these other settings we're going to deal with tomorrow and Thursday when we start querying things and mixing them with other posts and doing all sorts of stuff with templates and things like that. The final thing, again, we're not going to go through everything on this page, but we will over Wednesday and Thursday. The link for the codex page, thanks for asking on that, Jim. I just pasted right there. That's one of the places I'm sure you can find the menu structure listing on a number of different codex pages. And if you're wondering, and again, I'm the type of person we will run through rabbit trails every once in a while. If you're wondering, why does add menu page even matter? What does it have to do with pods? Well, actually, when we create a custom post type in code, and we want to attach like this label, this link into this menu list, what is being done is actually a function in WordPress called add menu page. It's adding like the page title, the link, where it's going, the icon, the position. And so that's where when I searched for menu position, it's going to return the actual function that WordPress is using to place press releases. But the cool thing about Pods is we don't have to get into that. Pods does it for us. Pods writes that functionality into our site so we don't have to code in PHP. And so, this is awesome that we've got some of the Pods guys here in the chat room, because these are little things that even putting a little helper that will pop up the positioning, or turning this menu position into a drop down where we can say, put it here, put it there. So those are some cool things. Now, the advanced option setting, the only thing I want you to know about for today's webinar is scroll all the way down to the bottom. The reason why is this is where we declare different supports. When WordPress says supports, WordPress is going to load additional functionality into this custom post type. So let's quick go over here so you can see what it looks like. Right now, I just have a title and I have my content area. Now, yes, I do have an SEO plugin that is loading into this, but that has nothing to do with pods. The title is here and the editor is here. If I want to no longer use the WordPress editor, why? Because we are going to make a press release that is essentially just the title of the press release, a link to the press release, other information like date published, all that type of stuff. So I'm unchecking the editor. But what if I wanted to include a featured image? And what if I wanted to include the excerpt, a smaller content box? Great. I check these things, these boxes, hit Save Pod, and now let's go take a look at the screen. I'm going to refresh on the Press It Now area. So look at this. We have our, let me make this a little bit easier. Again, remember all these meta boxes in WordPress are draggable and movable and droppable and all that good stuff. We've got our title, we've got our excerpt box, and we've got our ability to add a featured image. All right. One more thing as we begin to expand the capabilities of this custom post type. And we're going to start here in this Manage Fields, this section here. So it's the first tab whenever you edit a pod. How many of you just wish you could be able to add things like, all right, I want to be able to add additional fields so I could put like allergies or for press releases, or who is the author of the press release, when it was published, where can people contact to learn more information, all these type of things that you would use in storing the content or that you would use in displaying a press release. If you have never written a press release, you probably may not know that, sure, your press release, you've got your title, you've got your impact statement, then you've got the press release, then you've got the contact information, you've got an embargo date in which nobody can talk about the press release until that date gets passed, you've got all those type of things. So let's add those type of items into our press release area. And Al, yes, pods can be hidden to the client access, but it's not going to be within pods. There's other ways you can do that. There's very easy ways to hide it, and we'll dive into that. Probably not today. All right, so we're going to add a field. Again, I'm inside my press releases pod. You can always see which pod that you're working on. And I'm immediately presented with the ability to create a whole bunch of different fields. Now, if you're used to using advanced content types or types and views, many of these plugins have that type of interaction. But what you're going to see is the simplicity of how pods allows us to select a pre-formatted form that also pre-validates. Maybe not pre-validates, but it provides the validation. So that if I were to select something like a number field, if somebody enters something that's not a number, I didn't have to write any validation to make sure that that's proper before we send it. It's going to simply just reject it if it's not a number. The same is true for a number of other things. All right. So let's start by creating a contact point or contact name. Contact name. So a press release needs a contact name. I'm going to just leave this here. You will also find that based on the type of field type that you choose, the additional options in the advanced field options are going to change. So for plain text, I can simply say, do I want to allow people to put shortcodes or HTML in here? Do I want to customize or have a maximum amount of characters? I can also come in here and add classes, CSS classes that will wrap around that field. Kind of like you would do with a form plugin, except what we're doing with pods in this area, we're kind of creating a form field only on the admin area. Now, yes, we can have pods forms on the front end, but we'll deal with that tomorrow. All right, so let's add this field. Immediately, we have this field. Now, because I'm going to show you back and forth since we're doing this live, I have saved this, And now when we refresh, we're going to see our fields show up here. I've got a contact name. So immediately, without having to do any work, I've been able to not only create a meta box of information, and all these additional fields will be stored here. So let's continue on, add another field. I know that we'll need a phone number, contact phone. So I've got this information. As I said, now we have different types of validation, different types of formats. I can choose international. You would want to choose international if you're going to have people enter phone numbers in a wide variety of methods. If you know you're only going to be getting US-based phone numbers, no extensions, check that, do whatever you want. You can add that field. We need to set an embargo date as well for our press release. And we'll call this our embargo date. The reason why we are setting an embargo date here is because WordPress, whenever you publish a piece of content or save a piece of content or a post into the database, sure, you have a date stamp that occurs. You've probably seen it on regular blog posts published on May 2nd, 2017. We're not going to be dealing with that because we need to be able to set a date in the future. So I come over here and I pick my date area. Now, when I choose the date, I can choose the type of format. How do you want your format to occur? And it uses both kind of the European or the American version, whatever you want, metric, however you want to consider your date format. You have all the different options there. And again, I can still wrap it with CSS classes, and we can do a few other things. So let's add that field. And finally, we need to have a link to the press release. Press link. Because normally, let's say we're not going to publish on our own website. We just want to link over to PR Newswire or some press release website. So I am going to actually say it needs to be a website. That way, we will get validation to make sure that we can force the validation to be proper, as you're going to see. All right, let's save this pod. And now let's go back to our press release and take a look at what we now have. So let's call this one Muffins Are Taking Over the World. So our little excerpt tells us a little bit. Crazy muffin bakers are clogging the highways as they head to the International Muffin Baker Festival. I have no idea. I am just... If this is the first time you've ever been on a webinar with me, sometimes our rabbit trails can take us into some really strange things. You never know what's going to come out of my head. All right, so the contact name is Muffins. And her contact phone is 555-123-4567. And notice how when I tab to the embargo date, it pulls up a nice little calendar, so I can say, all right, nobody talk about this one until the 12th. And then I can put the link for the press release, prnewswire.com, whatever the press release was going to be. So I've been able to put all this down. Let's publish this. So now I have a press release, but nothing is showing. Have no fear. It's okay. We've still got time in today's webinar where I'm going to show you how it can appear. But for us to see, I now can see I've got my muffins taking over the world. Now, the title tag and meta description, that's part of an SEO plugin. So I don't confuse everybody, let's go ahead and turn off that SEO plugin off of our training site so that you'll see everything as is. So that's what it will look like. Now, we'll also be able to dive in and mess around with some of this in a bit. All right. So we've got press releases. We can see that we've got our content, we've got our excerpt, we've got information here. I didn't put a featured image. We won't deal with that in just a moment. All right. Now, let's go back to the Pods admin. So what you have seen so far in this first 25 minutes is how easy it was to create a custom post type, start adding content, customizing what type of fields appear, both on your unique fields as well as customizing WordPress default fields like the excerpt and the title and things like that. And we've been able to customize how the add menu link places the custom post type as well as provides an icon. So let's go over here to another setting in Pods that we haven't talked about yet, and that is components. There are a number of non-enabled components. And there is really one component that I want you to know about that is going to make your life easier in order to show the information on the front end. Because I think for anybody who works with custom post types, this, viewing that front end without all the special content is going to be an issue. So what I want you to do, whenever you start with Pods, even if you're just playing around with it, go to the components, go to templates, and enable it. Don't worry if you see all this stuff. Ooh, it's an advanced templating engine for Pods. To get started using templates is super simple. So trust me in this. Even if you've never done this, never dove into templating, never done all this stuff, it really is simple and it's nothing to be afraid of. So once you've enabled templates, you're going to see templates show up here. But guess what happens? Now that we've enabled templates and I go back in to edit my press release, we get another tab. Oh, and Al brings up an awesome point in the chat room. If you've just joined us, it's over at wpstudio.com/chat. Yes, Pods is free. So, you really can't beat it. See this extra tab? Auto template options. Do you want to enable automatic Pods templates for this pod? If you check it, now you won't do this just yet because we haven't created our template yet. We can be able to provide a template that will, for the single view, so when we're on that individual post or that press release page, or the archive view, which is a listing of all our press releases. And all we have to do is actually put the name of the template here and put the name of the template here, and then we can choose what are we doing? Are we going to replace the default themes, the content filter? Or do you want to leave the way your theme currently handles the content and simply place the Pods information before or after? This will make a little bit more sense once we dive into this. But I want you to see this. I'm just going to leave this page because we're going to head back down over here to templates. Stacy, yes, this is like having an behind-the-scenes auto builder for your single.php and the archive page. Essentially, it's not single.php. It's going to be singular dash press or underscore dash press release, because it's going to be the singular post page of a custom post type. That's getting a little more technical than we're going to do right now. All right. So let's go over. I'm going to leave because we'll come back to this auto template. And notice how there's no pods templates found. That's fine. We're going to create our first one. And we're going to call this one our press release. Single. This way we'll be able to recognize it. Now, the naming of the pods template is for your use, because that's how we're going to identify the template that we are creating here. Now, before you go further, you're going to miss out if you don't do one thing. In this whole template area, we've got full HTML capability to start to design the layout of our site, of our press release. But don't dive into this just yet, because I want you to come over here to the pods reference. This will auto-populate with all the pods you've created on this website. And since we only have one, there's only one thing to drop down. So it has now given us a reference point of all the possible fields that are associated with this pod. Down at the very bottom, you will see those additional fields, those more fields that we created, the contact name, contact phone, embargo date, press link. They're all here. But there are also other things that come default with WordPress. They're all built in. They're all part of core WordPress, where you've got the post title, the post content, post excerpt. Now, we have no post content, so we can't use it. Now, we're going to style a very basic press release. So let's go ahead, and because hopefully all of you are very familiar with at least basic HTML, we're going to wrap a div class equals press release. We'll make it very basic. So we've got a nice little markup editor that will also color code, indent, do a number of things. So the first thing we want to do, and let me go back and forth because I want to show you each element. So I am going to have a few tabs open here so you can see where I'm pulling all this stuff. The first thing is we want a nice big like H2 header tag of the title of our press release. So for that, we're going to start with an H2 tag. But at any point, when we want to do what I'm going to call in this first session our mail merge. How many of you have ever done a mail merge from like an Excel spreadsheet and then you did a print run on your envelopes? So when you're creating that single mail merge envelope, you're using placeholders. So all these placeholders are where we feed in the address, the zip code, all that stuff. Pods templating has these placeholder mail merge elements called magic tags. And we initiate a magic tag by having the opening of the, we'll call it our squiggly brace, and then the @ sign, as if you were going to do the email at whatever. The moment you start typing that, the squiggly brace open and the @ sign, we get a drop-down list of this. Exactly what's over here. Now I can sit there and scroll, or I can start typing. And it will start to auto-complete till I have one left. And then I close my squiggly brace. And then I can close my H2. So now I have a post title showing up. Now, in this next element, remember there are a few other items that I might want to do, like for this area, I might want to do an embargo date. So for this, I would do something like paragraph tag, embargo date, open squiggly braces, the @ sign, And then I can do EM, and look at that. I typed E, then I hit the tab key, and it auto-completed the embargo date field. Now, when I publish this, again, it's not going anywhere. It's just being saved as part of the pod's backend in the WordPress database. But now this template, this press release single, I can attach it to that auto templating system. So now let's go back to that edit pod. Let's edit this press release. Go to the auto template. Let's enable this. And because this is the only template that exists, it's going to autofill this. Now, if we had a number of templates, we'd be able to drop down, select from this. Now, because I'm not messing around with anything on the theme just yet, I'm going to leave everything else as it is, so this will appear after whatever regular content might occur. We're going to save this pod. Now, let's go back here to our press release. Here, all press releases, just so we can view this. Look, muffins are taking over the world. Embargo date here. The reason why I chose after is I want you to see what the theme was able to do before. It didn't know how to add those additional fields. It didn't know how to add things. So now, using the template, we can go in and start to really customize every aspect of how we want our layout to appear if we have some basic HTML understanding. Now, tomorrow and Thursday, we will dive into some other really cool stuff, like integrating with the new Beaver Builder themer. We will take a look at how you can integrate with other types of page builders, designers, and all these other things. Oh yeah, Jim, absolutely. We don't need the post title because it's already handled. I'm trying to show the variations, the two different things. So maybe to make it a little easier to see, we'll go ahead and we'll just add in an HR, a horizontal line that I can't seem to type. Now you'll be able to see that there is a difference. But we can go through this whole thing and just start adding all the different elements that we want for our content so it shows up. And again, it's just like a mail merge. And Jim's got a great example there in the chat room that one of the things that you can do with Pods templates is enhance what your theme already does. So that's a great way to approach it. But I do want you to keep in mind, and we will actually deal with this on Thursday, Pods templates is way more powerful than simply using as an auto templating system to attach to a post. These templates can be used to interact with a number of other plugins that use Pods templating system for displaying all sorts of content. We can integrate the results of a template here into a pod shortcode. We can integrate it and do all sorts of things. So the flexibility here is enormous to customize how you want to display pretty much anything. Why? When I first pointed out your pod reference here, we got a list of all the different fields that we can create here. So, let's see where we are right now, because what I now want to show is where things get even a little more advanced, a little more accessible. And one of the cool things that a lot of developers or people just getting started with WordPress say is, I really wish there was a way that I could, encourage my customers, my people, members who come to my website, to put some additional contact information here. Maybe we want them to put their Twitter handle or their Facebook ID, or or maybe it's really old school and you need ICQ, or you need AOL Instant Messenger, or you need to really promote your MySpace area. Whatever you can think about, you can do it. Because pods, in addition to creating new custom post types, we can extend post types that already exist. And the awesome thing about extending post types that already exist is, once we extend them, all the power of pods, all the power of the pods templating system, it all now opens up to use in default things like media and user accounts and regular posts. Now we're going to extend two different current post types. One of them is, we're going to extend the media library, and we're going to extend the user profile. So you're going to see where this could benefit you today. So let's go, and sure, you can go in and install a ginormous kitchen sink plugin that will allow you to customize the user profiles and do all sorts of stuff. But if you only want one or two things, why install a big old plugin when I can do it here with pods? So I'm going to extend our user custom post type, because I want to make sure that every user tells me about their Twitter handle. So I have now just extended my user area. Let's add a field, and we will call this our Twitter handle. And in this one, I'm going to say, please enter your Twitter handle. Now, because people would enter the Twitter handle differently, we might want to do something a little bit different. By offering maybe a default value, so we could offer a default value like example. So this way, hey, we're giving them an example. We've got a default value just so that if they never enter anything, we're going to have a value sitting there just so that there is something there. There's all sorts of things that we could do, but I'm trying to keep it as easy without having to touch any code right now. So we're going to add this. I'm going to save the pod, and let's go edit our user profile. And so now every user profile has the ability to enter a Twitter handle. Now, when we start doing code tomorrow, I'll be showing you how we can change this name, we can rename this, we can do all sorts of stuff. But this is super easy, and it's very useful. Another extremely useful thing, how many of you either upload photographs or you've got a client that uploads photographs, and maybe you want additional information like where the photograph was taken? Maybe you want to be able to offer the client to put in like a geolocation, something. So let's go over here to pods. We're going to add a new pod. We're going to extend the media library. So now, when we extend the media library, I'm going to say something like name of photographer. Let's add that field. Where did photograph happen? Or something. Again, you can put whatever label you want. The name is how we reference that field. So you can leave whatever thing, or you can customize this. These do not have to match. The label and the name do not have to match, but I can say photo location, because maybe that's easier for us to remember when we begin styling everything, designing, pulling this contact information out. All right. So I've shown you some of the basic elements here of like names, websites, emails, phone numbers. Sure, you can have some paragraph text. You can even use the WordPress visual editor. But now we are going to do something unique. And Pods has this super powerful thing called a relationship. For this first element, we are going to be building a relationship that is very simple. Oops. And so we're going to do this thing called, which camera did you use? Which camera used, whatever. And we'll call this one used camera. And how about I spell things correctly? That would be helpful. So let's go down here to relationship. And it's going to open up some additional fields. Now, in just a moment, we will dive into a few of these other things, but we're going to keep it a simple one. Because in this one, we have disposable, Nikon, Canon, whatever. Let's just say iPhone. So we're going to have just 3 different types of cameras that we could use. Let's add that field. Now let's save this pod. This time, when maybe we're building a site for our clients, or maybe we've got our own photo blogging website that we're using WordPress to manage. John in New Jersey, that white green in the green circle, that's Grammarly. That's a browser add-on that's trying to help me correct my grammar. So that's not part of Pods. That's just being an annoying thing during a live webinar. All right. So let's go over to our media library. So we're going to add a new item. So over here, I'm going to quick grab. I know I've got a number of free images. If I can load them, we'll add some Vlad Studio stuff, since we like Vlad. So we're going to say we took this photograph of this animal. So take a look at this. So we've got our little live photograph. Yeah, this is outside my window. Sure, I can have my caption, alternative text, description. That's all part of WordPress. But now I can say Bob the Muffin Guy. Whoa, I did not mean to update that. Let's just change this. Guy. Where did the photograph happen? Here. And which camera did we use? Some disposable camera. I was able to select this. And we update. So see, now what we've been able to do is attach additional pieces of information that as we begin to see how we can then use templates to showcase and highlight and design how things will appear on the front end. These are now fields. These are post-meta fields that we can extract into either our theme, into our template file, into anything. We would be able to handle all that and customize it using Pods. All right. So with this, I now have a number of Pods items. There is going to be 1 or 2 things that just as an alert or a warning as you are working with Pods, and that is when you create or extend a WordPress default post type like user, media, posts, you can only create one pod. Like I can't go in here and create a new user. I can't extend the users again. Why? Because we've already done it. It already exists as an extended pod. So that's just a word of warning to make sure that nobody gets frustrated and whatever you need to do. Yes, Jim, thanks for the clarification. I'm trying to be as high level so we don't get too many questions about what is a WordPress object. Okay, if Ryan were here in the chat room, he would have just asked that question. So now that we've seen this, I'm going to briefly show you one other thing about why using pods to extend existing objects or custom post types is beneficial using pods. And this is one of the things that sets pods apart from all these other custom post type things. Let's go to the template area. Just to show you an example that I'm going to use this press release single as an example, but let's go over here. See now, all my user, see these are all the elements I can extract for this pod's reference. But here is the problem for what we're dealing with. If we are already in press releases, if we're using a template for press release, we can only access press release pod magic tags. I cannot access press releases or end users and media files unless I do something special. So let's go back over here to the edit pods, because we're going to edit our press release and create some relationships. Another relational field. Yes, I'm going to do something special. And if this is also a first time you've ever been here, I may take us down a rabbit trail where I break everything in sight. So sometimes it's just, hey, let's try this out. And I realized after the fact that I probably chose one of the more experimental relationship things to demonstrate. So let's say that, okay, we've got a press release here, and we're going to connect up a media file. So let's just call this one our media file, our media. And in this, we're going to create a relationship. And I'm going to create a relationship to, I can look at the post types, see this, press release, post, pages. Some of these are made by other plugins. And we're going to come down here to users, media. So I'm creating a relationship to the media file. And I can come over here to my additional field objects where I can choose whether it's going to be a single select or a multiple select. Do I want to use a drop down or an autocomplete? How do I want to pull items in? Let's add that field and let's save the pod. Now, we're going to go adjust our press release. Let's edit. This is the custom post type we created, and guess what? We've got a media field right now. I drop down and I get, again, we haven't done any special customization, I get the listing of all the items that are in the media library, just so you can see what they are. Let's go look at the media library. Oops, that's the pages. Let's actually look at the media library. And there's our 3 items. Yes, Jim, it's absolutely better to use an uploader. But what I want to demonstrate, again, is going to be a little bit crazy, because now when I update this, I'm not trying to really pull this in. I want to be able to access, let's go over to the library, edit this, I want to be able to access these fields. Yeah. Now, I'm probably the first person ever to come up with the idea, let's create disposable cameras and connect it to a press release. But that's what I want to show you could do. So let's go to the templates. Again, this is a press release template. I'm using the press release pod. Let's scroll all the way down here, and oh look, there's additional fields. You'll notice that there is a name, the word media, and then period. And anytime you see that in a pod's magic tag, that means it's a relational field. And so it's the name of that relational field or that relational pod that we are connecting to or that relational object that we are connecting to. And then all the fields that are part of that. So see, here's my used camera, photo location, name of photographer. So let's just come down here, and so we can start typing paragraph tag, initiate my magic tag, media, period, and I'm just going to scroll down because I already forgot, photo location. So press release launched at whatever location. And by media, name of photographer. All right, so this is simply showing that we can pull things from another item that was extended by pods simply by having that relational field. And let's see if it's working. Press release launched here by Bob the Muffin Guy. So this here and the Bob the Muffin Guy were not part of this custom post type, the press release. It's only because we related another object custom post type, another pod, to that one, that we now have access within the pods template, because everything that is related to the press release is here in an accessible magic tag method. How many people are now duct taping their brain because things are leaking? So there are lots of things that we could relate to. Let's go back to our pod, because let's say we have some categories in our regular WordPress site, and we will call this one our muffin category. So let's just go ahead and say I've got a category called muffin, and let's go ahead and go to our posts, just because I know I've got one or two posts. So let's say the Hello World post, you get the muffin category, whatever. So now in the pods, when we go to edit that, our default pod, to our press release, add a field. Again, we'll use this as a relationship. As I said, we can relate taxonomies. We can relate posts. So if I were to relate a category, and again, I don't have any bi-relational field. That would be if I went to taxonomy, extended taxonomy, added a field that pointed back to press releases, we could have a related field. So it goes back and forth. So now I save this pod, and if I go back in and edit my press release, oh, did I not save the pod? And that's what happens when you don't save pods. I thought I did. No, I didn't. Okay, so if that ever happens to you, don't worry. Just head back here and say, find me a category. Relationship to categories. Add the field. Save the pod. And now I can go to press releases. I can edit this. I can select which category is going to be beneficial to people who are reading this press release. I can update this because now in the templates, let's go back to the press release single template. If you take a look here, scroll down here, you're going to see, okay, here's our media. Here's the find me a category. So at this point, I can now start to pull up the name of the category that might be useful. And then if we link up that category to our, so people could see the archive of that category, our press release could say, well, if you're interested in this information about the muffin bakers taking over, why don't you go read all of our blog posts that have the category whatever. It all becomes accessible. So once you've built your template to display how you want, pull information out, to do all that stuff, now you can turn a site over to a client and they're able to enter the press release title, write their little excerpt, include this, select from your pre-selected media files. See, I didn't give them the ability to upload. How awesome would that be? To not allow the client to upload a 5,000 megapixel picture. No, you have pre-selected 10 items in the media library. And again, we are trying to think way outside the box. I want you guys to experiment, push, try things out, find ways for it to work for you. Most of us are probably not going to be linking to taxonomies and media libraries. But what we would do is maybe create relationships between fields. Or relationships between different pods. Now, you don't have to do this, through these more fields. Don't forget that in setting up your pods, and I'm going back to the editor area, in the advanced options, scroll all the way down to the bottom, we can use taxonomies like they're built in WordPress. So I can simply select this, and now I can actually use the regular WordPress categories. See, I pulled my categories. These are the categories, same categories for use for posts. And so now here in this area, I have the category showing up. And yes, I'm using just a fake concept where we're not actually posting the press release. We are linking off to some other location. So we would wrap this link, it could be as simple. That's a great idea. Let's add this link. So back into the template, I would wrap around the H2 tag a href equals magic tag. I even forgot what it was going to be. Press link. So now we have that post title going to the press link. Now, Because this is an introduction to pods and we've done some crazy stuff here, I do want to let you know that when you're playing around on your local host, if you're anything like me, a lot of times you like to try something and then reset back, and try something and then reset back. Because sometimes you may want to try it a few times before you feel comfortable doing it. Pods has a really cool feature, and again, I would not do this on a live site that you spent all this time developing, but there is a cleanup and reset area in the settings. If I click this, Reset Pod Setting and Data, pods will still be activated on my site, but all the work I've done, all the templates are gone. All the custom post types are gone. I mean, it's gone. There's no, oops, can I back up and do this? No. If you're just on a test site, great. You can go ahead and play around with it. If you're anywhere but a test site, I would make sure you have a backup before you hit this. So, with pods, we are able to add custom post types. We did not even talk about adding our own taxonomies, but that's similar to adding something like categories tags. Tomorrow, we're going to be dealing with custom settings pages, because for those of you who are members of WP Studio, we're going to dive into creating the settings panel and then how to extract that data and put it into the theme, so that a client could update aspects of their site without having access to the site configuration. We can extend any current post type. Now, Marianne, you've got a great question. What if you add it to a site that already has a theme with built-in custom post types? And as Jim's already mentioned, I can extend any of custom post type that exists on my website already, which now means the moment I extend it, it's almost like the moment pods touches a custom post type, an object, a part of WordPress, pods now can control it. Whether it's adding additional fields, whether it's changing the way the template works, there's all sorts of things that we can deal with. Now, just so everybody also knows, if you head on over here to the help area, you're going to get mainly a link to Pod's website. Because this is an introduction, I do want to show you a few things that you do want to know about this website. There's a great team who's supporting all this, and we're waiting for WP Engine to display the website. Okay, let's see if we can not go directly into the form. Maybe that's WP Engine. There we go. We won't make fun of WP Engine. They help support pods. So here's the pods website. I want you to know about 2 or 3 things. The first thing is head here to the documentation. In the drop down, you're going to find a few key elements. One of them dealing with the short codes. And before we close out, I'll show you a few of those items. Information about the field types, a few tutorials, a few videos to watch. But I do want to alert you to this list of plugins. These are plugins that are fully integrate with pods or extend or advance the ability of pods. And so in this, you'll see a number of these are add-ons that are part of pods, but you will see things like CodePress's admin columns. This is a plugin that would enable you to customize exactly how this would appear. So and tomorrow we're actually going to use that plugin to customize how this looks, change the whole order, and there's a number of things that you can do with that. You can also scroll down here. 2 other ones that I want to highlight for you. Scroll all the way down. Let's see, where did it move to? Tabify edit screen is a fun little one. We'll look at Thursday. And where did the widget, did I already pass it? Dynamic widgets. No. Yes, dynamic widgets will also be able to auto-select certain pods pages to choose, kind of like widget logic, but with drop-downs. So those are some stuff to think about. So take a look at this. There's a lot of good stuff of things that you can find. Over here is everything you need to know about getting help with pods. Yes, there's a forum, and there's a number of places, but this is how you can join the pod Slack channel. All you have to do is put your email address. If you already use Slack on with other organizations or here at WP Studio, I would recommend using the same email address, because that way you don't have to log in multiple times, but you can put them side by side in the same Slack app. So you can find all that stuff out here on the Pods website. So because we had scheduled this for a 90-minute, we do have just a few minutes left, and this few minutes left, I'm going to show you one other way of pulling your Pods content and displaying it. And that would be in a regular post or page. So if I were to come over here to our post or page, I'm going to say, view my press releases. So this is using a regular WordPress press releases. And inside this, there above the WordPress editor, you will see a JavaScript-based widget that if you click on it, we now can embed a pre-built Pods shortcode. Pods has a shortcode language system with a bunch of parameters and arguments that can, in any place shortcodes work, insert any of the Pods content. So I can choose between a number of things. I can display a single pod item, list a number of pod items, display a single field, include a file from a theme, anything. So I'm going to say I want to display a single pods item. I want to pull it from the press release. At this point, I can either write my own custom template and then put my own shortcodes or magic tags. I can do that, or I can select one I've already created. So by doing this, I have been able to select which pod I want to use, which template I want to use. I can insert it. Muffin. So I now have a shortcode. I publish this, and oh, my ID I chose has nothing to do. I have no piece of content under Muffin. So we didn't quite get it right, but I just wanted to show you that we can go through and use a shortcode creator here using Pods. So there's a number of ways that you can get your content into your WordPress site. Now, I do want to point out that the next 2 days are members only here at WP Studio. And so if you are interested in looking at WP Studio, tomorrow you can actually come over here to the membership site to learn a little bit more about what we do here at WP Studio, the community, the training, the tools, all the stuff. If you have questions, you can also just email me directly and I'll respond. And I'm going to give you guys a coupon in just a moment. Anytime we do a free webinar here at WP Studio, I randomly generate a coupon code. So who knows what the coupon value will be here in just a moment. But what we are doing tomorrow is we are taking our pods to that next level and actually looking at integrating the templating system into a theme, working in page templates, working through a number of other tools to extend pods, and also using and building a client settings panel that we can create a few fields that we want the clients to edit. We don't want them to touch anything else, so therefore we're going to create our own settings panel. On Thursday, we're going to go even further because I told you this template area is powerful. It is so powerful that there's a bunch of conditional logic that we can write into this template, and we'll get into it on Thursday, where we can write if statements and conditional statements that if there's something in this field, then we'll show this. If there's not something in that field, like nobody entered a photo location, we'll show something else. We'll go through loops. And yeah, exactly, Jim. There's a number of stuff that we'll dive into on Thursday to really flesh that stuff out. But if so all that stuff is going to be available to members of the WP Studio membership. If you like this type of training, live training, interacting with you guys in the chat room, I've got a whole bunch of free webinars that are coming. All you have to do is look for the big free event in the listing. And yes, we have a lot of inside jokes. Our timer will set after we're done. But you can take a look at a number of the upcoming events that are happening. You can register for those. I just want to thank you all for hanging with me. And so without further ado, I am going to pull up our random number generator. And let's say we are going to do a coupon between 19% and, what do you say, 30%? Somewhere in there. Or do we want to go more than that? Let's live dangerously. 32%. And let's generate. All right, so it'll be 23% off for WP Studio membership, whether it's the quarterly membership or the annual membership. And the coupon code is, let's call this one 23 pods. So it will be 23 pods. It's not live yet. It'll be live in about 5-10 minutes. So 23 pods will get you 23% off membership, and then you can immediately gain access to the upcoming pods webinars tomorrow and Thursday. You'll also get access to the Dev Camp that's happening early June. Intensive week-long developer training, building your own plugins, extending your own themes, building your own themes, stuff like that. Plus, you get access to the training library, fully sorted down, covering all sorts of content. There's 28 videos already in the library, lots of hours of training. So without further ado, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us here at WP Studio. I want to thank the team at Pods for all they do and hanging out with us on the chat room. And who knows, maybe what we'll do is maybe I'll send them a link to the video, and so that if you missed anything, we'll enable the video to be rewatched for anybody who wants it. Normally, all video and replays are available to members, but we love the Pods community, or I love the Pods community here at WP Studio, and so I want to enable you guys to do that. The code is going to expire. Let's say it's going to expire tomorrow, because tomorrow we start session 2. So thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of a Tuesday. And I look forward to answering any of your questions that you guys have. Again, you can always email me, benjamin@wpstudio.com, or you can just find a contact form right here, like on the membership page or the home page. Fill that out. Even if you're not a member, you've got a question, reach out to me. I'm here to help everybody succeed. So thanks again. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy playing with Pods. we'll get this uploaded and available for replay, hopefully within the hour. And take care, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.